Part 17. I am immortal and I raise a divine beast in another world. Author, Chen Wunian. Chapter 161. Satya did not notice Hefi's murderous intention towards Chen Hao. It smiled and said, "Boy, you have lived for too long and you have forgotten many things. Among the 7 gods, I was born the earliest. Do you know who created me?" Satya looked at Hefi playfully, and he turned his face to look at Chen Hao beside him. "This he who created me is also my master." "Sister, I think you are wrong." Hefi squinted his eyes and stared at Chen Hao. "We 7 gods were born by nature and have nothing to do with other lives. I, Hefi, have lived for so long, I've never heard of a god having a master. I think this guy took advantage of your strength not yet being restored to take advantage of your mind and control it. According to my observation, this guy is obviously an ordinary human being." Hefi snorted coldly and stared at Chen Hao coldly. "Boy, I don't care what your purpose is, you'd better let my sister go. Otherwise, I will burn you to ashes." When Chen Hao heard this, he stretched his eyebrows. "Hey!" Upon hearing this, Satya moved and stood in front of Chen Hao. It frowned and glared at Hefi. "Hefi, if you dare to touch my master, don't blame me for falling out with you." Hefi was startled. He looked at Satya, then frowned and looked at Chen Hao. It looked at Satya. "Sister, you have been mind-controlled, you just don't know." Satya said coldly, "Nonsense. I, Satya, am the oldest god. Who can control me? In my opinion, Hepius, you are the one who is crazy." Hefi wanted to fight Chen Hao, but Satya stopped him. Hefi didn't seem to intend to fall out with Satya. But he didn't want to let Chen Hao go. For a moment, Satya and Hefi were facing each other. "Okay." Suddenly, a voice sounded. Hearing the sound, Satya and Hefi looked at the source of the sound. Seeing Chen Hao standing there, Chen Hao said lightly, "I originally thought that since I came here, I would let you 2 catch up on old times, but I didn't expect that I would be threatened, which made me very unhappy." As he said that, Chen Hao crossed his arms and looked at Hefi. "Do you think, you said you want to turn me into ashes, do you think you can do it?" Hepius was startled, and there was a trace of confusion in his eyes. "I am the god of fire, the god of destruction. My destructive power is the most powerful among the 7 gods. In this world, nothing is what I cannot destroy." It stared at Chen Hao and squinted its eyes. "You are a little human, the vitality in your body is so small. If I kill you, it will be easier than squeezing an insect to death." Chen Hao smiled. "Really? Then, how about I let you kill it?" Hefi's slightly narrowed eyes slowly opened, and his ruby eyes had a hint of luster. "You guy." "Master," Satya said quickly, and it looked at Chen Hao. "Master, no." Saying that, Satya turned back to look at Hefi. A thick black mist filled its body. It stared at Hefi angrily. "Hefi, how dare you touch a hair of my master? Wait until I am strong enough for cover, I will tear down your temple and crush your godhead." Hefi was startled. He never expected that Satya would be so angry. Hefi looked a little more embarrassed. "Sister, you." Change. Satya's body turned into a card. The card was suspended in front of Chen Hao. Seeing this scene, Hefi was slightly startled, and his eyes fell on Chen Hao. Chen Hao put away Satya's cards and then looked at Hefi. Chen Hao raised his face slightly, stared at Hefi, and said calmly, "Now that the person who was in the way is gone, don't you want to kill me? Then you kill me." Hefi was stunned for a moment. He looked at Chen Hao and then at the hammer in his hand. He frowned and looked at Chen Hao. Hefi hesitated. Hepius, the god of fire, is the most destructive being among the 7 true gods. In front of it, even the forest goddess who created the entire human race must have 3 points of it. But now, Hefi can realize that the person in front of him is obviously a human being, an extremely small existence in the human race created by the forest goddess. In the eyes of God, this guy is just a toy that can be crushed casually. Why is it so bold? Hephaestus was a little confused. It is possible that this person took advantage of Satya's weak state and used some kind of mental magic to control Satya. But it would be strange if this person was attacked by the god of fire. Hephaestus hesitated. It even started to think, isn't the old lady under mind control? Is this guy really my sister's master? Chen Hao saw Hephaestus' hesitation, and he crossed his arms and said, "Hurry up, you don't dare to fight when Satya is here, and now you don't dare to fight when Satya is not here. Are you still God? Are you so cowardly? Hurry up and beat me to death, and your sister will be freed," Chen Hao said casually. I saw Chen Hao's indifferent attitude of fighting or not. This made Hephaestus hesitate even more, and there was even sweat on his forehead. It thought to itself, if what the elder sister said is right, this guy really created the existence of the elder sister. Then if I hurt a hair on it, the old lady would have to peel off my skin. What to do? What to do? Hephaestus regretted a little, and thought to himself, I shouldn't have doubted my sister. Chen Hao saw Hephaestus' very hesitant posture. He frowned and said impatiently, "Will you fight or not? Didn't you say that your sister was controlled by my mind? Didn't you say that you are awesome? What? The most destructive god of fire, you can destroy everything in the world. You take your hammer and get rid of me. In this way, your sister will not be liberated." Chen Hao said lightly, "Don't be afraid of your sister's warning. I have mentally controlled your sister. If you kill me, won't the mind control disappear? Then your sister won't be grateful to you by then. If you want to hit, hurry up and don't wait too long." Hephaestus' eyelids jumped. He took a deep breath and then looked at Chen Hao. That, I'll hit you. This is what you asked me to hit. If you get hurt, don't blame me. When the time comes, tell me and say that you wanted me to hit you. This. Chen Hao was confused by Hephaestus' words. He looked at Hephaestus. "Oh? You want to kill me, and you still want me to say that I asked you to kill me? You have lived tens of thousands of years in vain, you are shameless, right? Shameless thing." When Hephaestus heard this, he had already realized a strong feeling that something was wrong. What I said is true. This sentence popped into Hephaestus' mind. I am immortal and I raise a divine beast in another world. Author, Chen Wunian. Chapter 162. Hephaestus' face was covered with sweat. In such a hot place, it has been working hard for tens of thousands of years without sweating, but now it is sweating. Hephaestus coughed, "Well, brother, I will hit you lightly, just once. You have to understand me, I am also thinking about my sister." Chen Hao covered his face with his hands. This guy is so shameless. Hephaestus was very sure at first that Chen Hao had a human being and just used spiritual magic to control Satya. But now, Hephaestus realized something was wrong and began to deny his thoughts, thinking that what Satya said might be true. But Hephaestus couldn't be completely sure, but he didn't want to offend Chen Hao and Satya easily. Now even the title has been changed, and even the old face is gone, asking Chen Hao to understand it. Is this really an old man who has lived for tens of thousands of years? This guy is completely shameless. If you don't speak, I'll take it as your acquiescence. Hephaestus coughed and stretched out his hand towards Chen Hao. It glowed with a burning red light. Call. A supergiant fireball with a diameter of 3 meters flew out from Hephaestus' huge palm and flew towards Chen Hao. Chen Hao could feel the burning sensation coming towards him. He looked forward and saw a fireball glowing with dazzling red light. In terms of destructive power, the god of fire is the strongest being in the world's combat power pyramid. Not to mention a human being, even a true god would not dare to take its attack head-on. Hephaestus planned to use this attack to determine the authenticity of Chen Hao. The clothes on Chen Hao's body were blown by the hot air waves, making them rustle. The fireball hit Chen Hao. Boom! Accompanied by a loud bang. Fires splashed everywhere, and the entire temple was illuminated red by the terrifying firelight. Hephaestus' pupils condensed slightly, and he looked forward into the sea of fire. Chen Hao stood where he was, with both his hair and clothes intact. Blowing his hair, the black hair fluttered, revealing a pair of deep black eyes. He stared at Hephaestus, his face expressionless. Hephaestus swallowed, his Adam's apple rolling. Hephaestus turned and walked away. Chen Hao looked around. The flames around him dissipated. He looked away and looked at Hephaestus' leaving figure. He stretched his eyebrows. Is this guy trying to escape? I saw Hephaestus groping on a table nearby. It held a red cup and placed it in front of Chen Hao. Brother, have a cup of cappuccino. Chen Hao looked at the half-meter-high red cup in front of him and the liquid inside, and the corners of Chen Hao's mouth twitched. He looked at Hephaestus. You shameless thing, are you here to make fun of me? Hephaestus laughed out loud. When the laughter stopped, his face became a little more embarrassed. He chuckled and said, Brother, you are so powerful. What I did just now, you just treat it as my fart, don't care too much, haha. As he said that, Hephaestus took his own cup and took a sip. While drinking, he turned his eyes towards Chen Hao, for fear that Chen Hao would be angry. When Chen Hao caught Hephaestus' flame magic head-on, Hephaestus was sure that what Satya said was true. Because in this world, there is no flame magic that can take it head-on and remain unscathed. Not even other gods. Then, this existence that looks the same as human beings has only another identity, and that is the identity of transcending God. This basically proves that what Satya said is true. After confirming this, Hephaestus corrected his position and called Chen Hao his eldest brother. Chen Hao looked at Hephaestus' embarrassed old face. Chen Hao stretched his eyebrows. I'm here, it seems I need you to find something. When Hephaestus heard this, his eyes lit up slightly, and he smiled and said, Brother, just say it, as long as I can do it, I will definitely do it. Chen Hao stood with his hands on his chest and was about to speak. Wait a minute, Hephaestus suddenly said. Chen Hao was slightly startled and looked at Hephaestus. Hephaestus stretched out his hand, and there was a chair made of black material next to Chen Hao. Brother, sit down and say, Hephaestus said with a smile. The corner of Chen Hao's mouth twitched. He sat down on the chair and looked at Hephaestus. I need an emperor core with fire attributes. Are there any emperor cores, and the god general core? When Hephaestus heard this, he had a smile on his face. Of course, brother, you can have as many of these things as you want. I like to make equipment. When I make equipment, I will become more powerful if I have these things, so I make them myself. Got a lot of these things. With that said, Hephaestus stood up, walked to a box, and then stretched out his hand. Change. The box becomes a card. Hephaestus took the card, walked to Chen Hao, stretched out his hand and handed the card to Chen Hao. Hephaestus' hands were too big, and the small card in his hands was like a mini children's toy. Chen Hao stretched out his hand and took it. Props Vulcan treasure box. Seeing this, Chen Hao stretched his eyebrows and looked at Hephaestus. Hephaestus said with a smile, in this box, there are emperor cores, divine general cores and divine monarch cores. However, the divine monarch core is difficult to condense, so there is only one at present, and I have used up the other divine monarch cores. Chen Hao stretched his eyebrows and said with a smile, okay, that's enough. He stood up and put the Vulcan treasure box into the book. Chen Hao took out the Dark Queen card. Seeing this, Hephaestus' pupils condensed. Brother. Wait. Chen Hao was startled, and he looked at Hephaestus. Hephaestus laughed and said, Brother, can you not tell me that I attacked you? Chen Hao looked at Hephaestus. Chen Hao reached out and touched his chin, looking at Hefei's. By the way, you seem to like to make equipment. Hefei's was startled, and it smiled. That's easy. Then, Hefei stood up again and walked to a box. The box turned into a card. Hefei's walked to Chen Hao with the card and handed it to Chen Hao. Chen Hao took it. Props Vulcan treasure box. Hefei smiled and said, here are the more powerful equipment I have made in the past 10,000 years. I hope you like it, big brother. Chen Hao blinked and looked at Hefei, so generous. Hefei smiled, I just like to make equipment, but the equipment is useless to me. If you like it, take it. Chen Hao smiled, okay, I won't tell Shataya about your attack on me later. Hefei laughed, big brother is straightforward. Chen Hao smiled helplessly. These gods, just live a little longer, are actually no different from children. Because Hefei is a man? Men are teenagers until they die. Transform. Shataya's figure appeared in front of Chen Hao and Hefei. As soon as Shataya appeared, it saw Chen Hao's eyes full of joy, and it noticed Hefei, and its face suddenly sank. Hefei's face changed. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I am immortal and I raise a divine beast in another world. Author, Chen Wunian. Chapter 163. God will not easily choose to offend another god, because God is immortal, although not immortal like Chen Hao. But after it is destroyed, it can be restored to its peak state as long as it is given time. Who would be willing to kill a guy who can be resurrected infinitely while risking his life and almost being killed? Unless there is something like Satya directly commanding the demons to carry out a genocide plan, which would make even the gods unable to bear it. But there is no conflict between Hephaestus and Satya. Instead, they have a very good relationship. In this case, Hephaestus didn't want to offend Satya even more. Seeing Satya rising, Hephaestus immediately cast a look at Chen Hao asking for help. Chen Hao looked at Satya and said with a smile, Satya, there is no need to be angry. I just had a chat with it, and now it knows that it was wrong and has acknowledged my identity. Satya was startled. It looked at Chen Hao, and then looked at Hephaestus. It smiled, that's right, my master is my master. Mind control, haha, there is no such thing in this world. There is a dark goddess who can mentally control me. Seeing this, Hephaestus breathed a sigh of relief and smiled, that's right, sister is the god who invented mind control magic. It's possible for you to control other people, but it's completely impossible for others to control you. It's me, little brother. Misjudgment, haha. Hephaestus smiled heartily, relieved his embarrassment, and looked at Satya, well, sister, it's a rare visit today. Why don't you stay and have a meal? When Satya heard this, he crossed his arms and said, the master wants to come to you, so I will stop by and have a look. What the master wants to do is the most important. Speaking of this, Satya looked at Chen Hao, master, what should we do next? Satya had not forgotten the reason why it came here. The reason why they came here was because Chen Hao wanted to come here. As for the reason why Chen Hao came here, Chen Hao looked at the book suspended in front of him, and looked at the two cards from the Vulcan treasure box placed in the card slots in the book. Chen Hao stretched out his hand to close the book and silently recited book in his heart. The book disappeared into thin air. Chen Hao looked at Satya and said, the matter has been done. If you want to reminisce with Hephaestus, you can stay. I plan to go back first. Satya was startled and looked at Hephaestus. It stretched its eyebrows and crossed its chest with its hands, what's the point of reminiscing with this brat who only knows how to blacksmith every day? Saying that, Satya looked at Chen Hao and said with a smile, I still like to be with the master. Wherever the master is, I like to be there. Hearing this, Chen Hao smiled, that won't work. Now we already have the Dark Emperor Core and the Fire Emperor Core, but we don't have the other 5 Emperor Cores yet. Speaking of this, Chen Hao paused and looked at Satya. I'll leave the task of collecting Emperor Cores with other attributes to you, how about that? Going to God's domain to collect Emperor Cores was quite novel at first, but now Chen Hao is tired of it. I plan to leave this matter to Satya and let her help collect it. There was a smile on Satya's face. As long as the master tells Satya to do something, Satya will do it. Master, please use Satya well, so that Satya will be happy. Chen Hao nodded slightly. By the way, there is one more thing. When you collect the Emperor's Core, help me bring something back. Help me get some little Wind Spirit cards and little Earth Spirit cards. Satya belongs to God, and it also has the ability to turn things into cards. Chen Hao's current collection of monsters of various attributes lacks Wind Spirits and Earth Spirits. Now that he doesn't go to other divine realms, he can just ask him to collect them for him. Satya hummed, okay. Seeing Satya's agreement, Chen Hao took out the teleportation card from his trouser pocket. Target, Wolong Island. Change. The card turned into black mist and enveloped Chen Hao. Chen Hao's body turned into a black light and disappeared in front of Satya's eyes in the blink of an eye. Chen Hao only felt that the surrounding environment was dark. When I saw the surrounding scenery again, the environment had changed. Owner. Master, master. Owner. Accompanied by the sound of milky milk. A group of 0-degree elves immediately came over and surrounded Chen Hao, their faces full of joy and happiness. Seeing these little guys, Chen Hao smiled, where are the Fire Phoenix and Fire Fox? When the 7 little guys heard this, they turned their faces sideways and looked in one direction. Chen Hao looked along the lines of sight of these 7 little guys. I saw not far away, Huofeng was standing there looking at this side. Seeing Chen Hao, Huofeng's gorgeous face showed a smile, Master. Hearing this, Chen Hao smiled, didn't you run around today? The Fire Phoenix was startled, and then said with a smile, the Master has asked me to take good care of the water and them. Of course I have to stay at home to take care of them. I don't need Sister Huofeng to take care of me. Suddenly, Shui Yi's voice came. Chen Hao looked at Shui Yi and saw Shui Yi looking at Chen Hao. Master, Shui Yi has grown up and can do many things without being looked after. Chen Hao smiled, and he reached out and stroked Shui Yi's little head. Shui Yi happily felt Chen Hao's touch. Chen Hao said with a smile, I know Shui Yi has grown up, so I let Huofeng stay here so that you can take good care of Huofeng and don't let it burn things randomly. The Fire Phoenix was startled and blinked. Shui Yi had a smile on his face and looked at Chen Hao, so that's it? Chen Hao was happy. Chen Hao looked around, where did Fire Fox go? Fire Fox likes to hang around the volcano recently. I guess Fire Fox is there now. A voice came. Chen Hao looked at the person who was speaking. The person who was speaking was the big pig. The big pig was standing not far away, looking at Chen Hao respectfully. Chen Hao stretched his eyebrows, is there a volcano on Wolong Island? The big pig nodded slightly, it is located in the middle of Wolong Island. There are fire attribute magic elements gathered there. It is a place where many fire attribute monsters like to stay. Oh. There are 5 areas on Wolong Island, each gathering 5 kinds of magic elements. It is obvious that the volcano should be the area where the fire magic elements gather. Chen Hao originally planned to come back and give the Emperor Core to Fire Phoenix and Fire Fox, and then put them in the book to rest. Master, are you looking for Sister Fire Fox? I can go and call Sister Fire Fox back. A voice came. Chen Hao looked and found that Xiaoying in the form of a rabbit was standing on the table, looking at him. Xiaoying can teleport. Although the distance is not as large as Shataya, it is enough in this Wolong Island. Let Xiaoying bring Fire Fox back, it's very simple. Chen Hao smiled and said, No, it's very simple to get Firefox back. However, Firefox has something to do now, let it have fun, there's no need to disturb it. Anyway, there's no rush to give the Emperor core, they will all come back at night, just give it to them then. However, Fire Phoenix. Chen Hao looked at Fire Phoenix, only to see Fire Phoenix looking at him, full of expectation. I am immortal and I raise a divine beast in another world. Author, Chen Wunian. Chapter 164. Chen Hao smiled, and he took out a fire attribute Emperor core from the treasure box card of the God of Fire in the book. Transform. A red Emperor core appeared in Chen Hao's hand. Chen Hao waved his hand. The Emperor core flew to the Fire Phoenix. The Fire Phoenix took a look, stretched out its hand, and took it. Its eyes were shining, such a rich fire attribute magic element. It raised its face and looked at Chen Hao. Is this the Emperor core? Chen Hao nodded slightly. Eat it, go back to the book to rest after eating, and you can evolve to the half-Emperor stage tomorrow. He smiled. After becoming a half-Emperor stage, you can go to the God's domain to play. The Fire Phoenix's eyes lit up, and a smile appeared on its face. Yeah. Put the Emperor core in its mouth and eat it in one bite. After eating, the Fire Phoenix looked at Chen Hao. Transform. The Fire Phoenix turned into a card and floated in front of Chen Hao. Looking at the card in front of him, Chen Hao found a problem. The Fire Phoenix seemed to have never seen or even knew the existence of half-Emperor stage monsters. What is the reason? After a little thought, Chen Hao knew the reason. Semi-Emperor monsters only exist in the God realm, and the God realm is an independent space with no connection with the outside world. As a strange beast, the Fire Phoenix is a life form in this world. It is normal that it has never seen a life form in the God realm. In other words, the semi-emperor is actually a semi-god realm. Has it already left the scope of this world? Chen Hao looked at the sky and muttered to himself. Chen Hao retracted his gaze, touched his hair, and walked into the wooden house. I got a lot of good things today, such as the fire attribute Emperor core, which can be used slowly for the newly collected little fire spirits, fire phoenixes, and fire foxes. In addition to these, there are also equipments given by the God of Fire. Chen Hao took out a bunch of equipment cards from the God of Fire's treasure box. Equipment Flame Armor forged by the God of Fire. Loyalty, 100%. Type, Equipment card. Level, Artifact. Evaluation, S level. Armor, forget it, Chen Hao muttered. His body has the property of immortality, and even the clothes and shoes he wears cannot be destroyed. Protective gear is of no use to him, so it is unnecessary. What Chen Hao lacks now is attack power. Chen Hao threw all the armor back into the treasure box, leaving a pile of weapons. These weapons are divided into different types and sizes. The sizes range from 100 meters to 20 centimeters. What kind of creature is this 100-meter spear for? 50-meter knife, 60-meter sword, is it used to split mountains? Chen Hao looked at these ridiculously large weapons and felt depressed. But Chen Hao also knew that some creatures were indeed huge, and their weapons were huge. This was not surprising. After Chen Hao looked at it, his eyes were suddenly attracted by one of the weapons. Chen Hao picked up the card. Weapon Tianzu Stick. Loyalty, 100%. Type, Weapon card. Level, Artifact. Evaluation, S level. Description, this weapon was originally a pillar supporting the sky in Zhongzhou. It was later taken away by the God of Fire and made into a pillar stick with the core of the god. Usage, the pillar stick weighs 81,000 kilograms. After recognizing the master, the weight can be adjusted according to the owner. At the same time, the pillar stick can also change its size according to its own needs. This thing, does the God of Fire need to ask someone for the copyright? Chen Hao muttered. Chen Hao smiled, but this thing is a good thing, not bad. In order to prevent this thing from being too big when it first appears and destroying the wooden house. Chen Hao chose to take the card out of the wooden house. He threw the card in his hand forward, transform. As Chen Hao's voice fell, the card disappeared, replaced by a dark red long stick. One end of the long stick was against the ground, and it stood in front of Chen Hao. The length is about 1.5 meters, which looks like the size of an ordinary long stick. Fortunately it's not that big. Chen Hao was still a little worried that this thing would be a mountain as soon as it came out, which would be troublesome. Chen Hao walked to the long stick and took a quick look. It looked quite exquisite. Master, call me out. Don't you need me? Suddenly, a voice sounded. Hearing this voice, Chen Hao was startled and looked at the long stick in front of him. It was the sound made by this thing. Suddenly, Chen Hao immediately thought of the word loyalty that he had just seen on the card. This thing has its own thinking? Chen Hao blinked. You can talk. Of course, I am a divine weapon. Most divine weapons have consciousness. It is normal to talk. The voice of the long stick sounded. Can many divine weapons talk? Forget it. Chen Hao was too lazy to think about it. He stretched out his hand and held the long stick. Slightly exerted force. The long stick was picked up by Chen Hao. Chen Hao held the long stick with one hand, turned it horizontally, and then exerted a little force to throw the long stick up. It feels very light. The feel and weight are about the same as the weight of a wooden stick. I wonder how powerful this thing is. Thinking of this, Chen Hao walked into the giant tree forest holding a long stick. Chen Hao entered the giant tree forest. He raised his head and looked at the giant tree in front of him, which was more than 60 meters high and as wide as a small bedroom. Chen Hao raised the long stick in his hand and swung it towards the trunk of the giant tree in front of him. Boom! Accompanied by a loud bang. The trunk of the giant tree broke, leaving a huge hole. The trunk above the giant tree fell down. Boom! Accompanied by a deafening bang. Chen Hao's clothes fluttered, and he looked at the fallen trunk of the giant tree, a little confused. Chen Hao looked back at the huge wooden stake in front of him. Chen Hao looked at the Tianzi stick in his hand. The destructive power of this thing was a bit too amazing. The giant trees in the giant tree forest, through the energy supply of wood magic, each tree not only grew tall, but also had amazing hardness. And just now, I didn't use much strength at all, and I broke this thing in half with one stick. Is this the power of the artifact? It's a bit scary. However, fortunately, for Chen Hao, who has seen many special things, it is also within the acceptable range. Chen Hao raised the Tianzi stick in his hand. Change. The Tianzi stick turned into a card. Chen Hao put the card back into the book. Then you can use this Tianzi stick as your weapon. With an immortal body and the destructive power brought by this Tianzi stick, there should be no problem walking sideways in this world. But it's a bit boring. Chen Hao thought, going to the god's domain is boring, and going to the death abyss is just like going to visit Chitaya's grave. However, let's go to the human world to have a look. I went to Juichuoer city before, maybe we can change places. Thinking about it, Chen Hao took out the map given by Dalong from the book. He opened it and took a look. The Juichuoer city I went to before was a small border town of the Thunder Silver Empire. At that time, it was because the city was closer to the Warcraft forest, so I went there to take a look. Next, maybe we can go to the imperial capital of the Thunder Silver Empire. The imperial capital should be more interesting, right? I am immortal and I raise a divine beast in another world. Author, Chen Wunian. Chapter 165. The name of the capital of the Thunder Silver Empire is Thunder Silver City. Chen Hao took out the teleportation card. Master, can I come with you? Suddenly, a voice came. When Chen Hao came back to his senses, he saw that the little shadow in rabbit form was standing on the wooden stake, looking at him. Chen Hao nodded slightly, of course, but, can you put the other 2 ears away? It has 4 rabbit ears. It is a rabbit-type monster. Only the shadow rabbit and above will have 4 rabbit ears. You must know that the shadow rabbit is a monster in the Beast King stage. Although the current form of the little shadow rabbit is somewhat different from that of the shadow rabbit, humans do not know what kind of monster the current little shadow is. They can only recognize the little shadow as the shadow rabbit in the Beast King stage. But that was enough to scare them. If Xiaoying wants to follow, it's better to keep his ears closed. Xiaoying was startled and shook his head. Xiaoying is a monster, not a strange beast. He cannot change his body at will. However, Master, Xiaoying has the ability of invisibility and can hide his body. Master does not have to worry about Xiaoying attracting the attention of others. Hearing this, Chen Hao's heart moved. Satya also has the ability to become invisible. Xiaoying is an assassin-type monster, so it is normal for it to have the ability to become invisible. Chen Hao said with a smile, then come up. Xiaoying's eyes lit up slightly, he hummed, and jumped directly onto Chen Hao's shoulder. Chen Hao said, target, Lei Yinchange. Change. As Chen Hao's figure fell, the card turned into black mist, wrapping Chen Hao and Xiaoying together, turned into a black stream of light and flew high into the sky, and disappeared without a trace in an instant. After Chen Hao came back to his senses, the surrounding environment changed. At this moment, Chen Hao appeared on the street. People were coming and going on the streets. Uncle, how do you sell this pinpo fruit? All kinds of noisy sounds came. Chen Hao looked around. This street is very spacious. If it were placed in Chen Hao's world, such a spacious street would be enough for 4 cars to fit in parallel. Below the street is a road paved with stone bricks, and there are pedestrians on the street. There are various buildings and shops on both sides of the street, and there are also people setting up stalls of various kinds. There are pedestrians in clothes shopping around the stall. Chen Hao withdrew his gaze and was about to walk forward to take a good look at the city. Stop, suddenly, a voice sounded. When Chen Hao came back to his senses, he saw a man wearing silver armor and a long sword at his waist blocking his way. He stared at Chen Hao with vigilance in his eyes. He stretched out his hand to Chen Hao, take out your pass. Chen Hao was startled and looked at the man, communication certificate. The man's pupils suddenly condensed, and he held the hilt of the sword with his right hand. There is an intruder. Everyone nearby, please listen and evacuate immediately. The guard's voice came together. When the passers-by heard this, they knew something was wrong and ran away one by one. Hulala! There was a burst of noise, and now only Chen Hao and the guard in front of him were left in the busy street just now. The guard stared at Chen Hao and said calmly, I used magic to sneak into the city. I don't have a pass with me yet. What is your purpose of sneaking here? He showed great vigilance. Chen Hao understood instantly. Laiyan City is the imperial capital of the Laiyan Empire. Since it is the imperial capital, it naturally pays attention to issues such as security. This guy is obviously the guard of the city. Apparently, Chen Hao was seen by Chen Hao when he used teleportation magic to get here, which aroused his vigilance. What to do? Just let Xiaoying use teleportation to run away? No, if you really use that method, you will be completely put on the suspect list and searched by all the guards in the city. I came to the city to play. If I was arrested by the whole city, my plan to play games in the city would be completely ruined. Then give up playing in the city? That was so painful and so emotionally affecting. Bang, bang, bang. Suddenly, there was a sound. It was the sound of people wearing armor running. Chen Hao came back to his senses and saw that a group of guards in armor had already run over. Groups of guards took up positions and surrounded Chen Hao in the middle. These guards were obviously attracted by the movement here and came to support. The guard who had just stopped Chen Hao stared at Chen Hao. This guy used stealth magic to sneak into our city. He doesn't have a pass in his hand, so he is very suspicious. It is best to arrest him, put him in jail, and interrogate him. Hearing this, an idea flashed in Chen Hao's mind. That's right. Chen Hao looked at the vigilant guard and smiled. I remembered the communication certificate, right? I'll show it to you right now. The guard was slightly startled. He frowned and stared at Chen Hao. Change a card appeared in front of Chen Hao. Chen Hao said, "Hua." The card disappeared, and instead a beautiful woman in a red dress appeared in front of Chen Hao. The woman looked at Chen Hao, her eyes lit up slightly, and a smile appeared on her face. Master. The guard's expression suddenly changed. Is this a humanoid beast? When the other guards saw it, their expressions also changed. Chen Hao ignored the guards, smiled and nodded slightly, saying, "Flower fairy, use your fairy charm." As the flower demon who charms the flower fairy, a smile appeared on its holy and charming face, and its eyes swept across the guards on the field. The guards' eyes met the flower demon's. The guards' pupils narrowed slightly, their frowned eyebrows slowly unfurled, and their expressions became confused. The guards came back to their senses, looked at the flower demon, raised their hands and put them in front of their chests, and bowed slightly to the flower demon. Master. In unison. It was obvious that they had all fallen under the flower demon's spell. The flower demon is now the charming flower fairy in the holy period. Its magic is fairy charm. Anyone it sees will become its slave. The flower demon smiled charmingly, then looked at Chen Hao and said with a smile, "Master, it's done." Chen Hao nodded slightly. Let them continue to perform their tasks and not disturb us. The flower demon hummed, then looked at the guard. Did you hear that? The guards bowed respectfully. Yes. Immediately, the groups of guards turned and left one by one. Chen Hao looked at the backs of the guards. Your magic is quite easy to use. Being exaggerated by Chen Hao, the flower demon's face showed joy. The magic that can help the master is the best magic for the flower demon. As long as the master needs it, the master of the flower demon's magic can use it at will. Hearing this, Chen Hao nodded slightly and looked at the flower demon. Noticing the flower demon's appearance, he stretched his eyebrows and said, "I'll call you next time if I need you." The flower demon's appearance is too eye-catching. Chen Hao is just here to play, he doesn't want to attract too much attention. The flower demon smiled. The flower demon obeys the master. Chen Hao put the flower demon into a cart and walked forward along the street. Chen Hao doesn't know where to go now, so let's look around first. After walking for a while, Chen Hao suddenly stopped. His eyes fell to the right. There is a building here. The door of the building is open, and people are coming and going at the door. And on this building, there are 5 big characters written on it. Adventurers Guild. Seeing this, Chen Hao's eyes widened slightly. Isn't this the Adventurers Guild that often appears in many Magic World online games? Chen Hao had a smile on his face. Go in and take a look. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I am immortal and I raise a divine beast in another world. Author, Chen Wunian. Chapter 166. Is this the Adventurers Guild? After Chen Hao entered the gate, there was a hall. It's noisy in this hall. There are tables and chairs above, and many people are sitting at the tables, holding wooden wine glasses, laughing and chatting while drinking. Several girls in uniforms were walking around the hall carrying silver metal trays with glasses of wine on them, serving drinks to the guests. This is an adventurers' guild, rather than a bar. Chen Hao thought for a moment, found an empty table and sat down. Sit down first, and then observe what happens. Chen Hao has actually encountered adventurers before. When he was cultivating Shuyi and the others on Wolong Island, he met a team of adventurers there. What is the name of the leader of that team? Call. Chen Hao frowned and thought. He couldn't remember it for a moment. He only remembered that the man claimed to be the sword master. The human sword master is equivalent to the semi-holy monster. However, according to Chen Hao's research and comparison during this period, he found that it is correct, but it is also incorrect. The sword master is indeed equivalent to the warcraft of the semi-saint stage, but it has to be a weak warcraft of the semi-holy stage. If the semi-holy monster is too powerful, the sword master will only be hung up and beaten. What's the name of that sword master? I remember his name was Bush. Chen Hao frowned and couldn't remember it for a moment. Chen Hao would not remember too much about such insignificant things. Especially the name of this world is really hard to remember. Bulo sword master. Suddenly, a voice came. Chen Hao came back to his senses. By the way, that person's name is Burrow. Huh, Chen Hao looked at the speaker. The person who just spoke was a table of adventurers not far away. The 5 adventurers were drinking wine and bragging. One of the strong men said with a smile, the Bulo sword master team is really powerful. They actually went to Wolong Island and brought back the body of the stone troll from Wolong Island. 5 Dragon Island is a legendary forbidden land. Except for some strong men, anyone who dares to step in will die. Several sword masters and wizards have been there before, but they all disappeared. Yes, Sword Master Bulo is really powerful. Not only did nothing happen, he actually brought back the body of the stone demon. That was the stone demon in the semi-holy stage of the water system. Not to mention the stone demon's magic crystal. Even if it had the body of the stone demon, the body made of magic elements is also a first-class material. Tisk, tisk, just get some and make them into swords. They are all top-notch weapons. I'm envious. I'm so envious. Successfully hunting the stone demon, Bulo Swordmaster's Golden Adventure team should have been promoted to an A-level adventure team, right? Well, yes, I remember that the guild upgraded the Golden Adventure team yesterday. I'm so envious, tisk tisk. The man said, minding his own business and taking a sip of wine. Listen to the discussion of the adventurers at the table. Chen Hao's eyebrows stretched. It seems that after Bulro went to Wolong Island, he survived and successfully hunted the giant stone demon. It seems that Burrow is quite famous. All the adventurers here actually know him, and his status is not low. It's normal, after all, he is also a sword master. Chen Hao noticed an elf man with pointed ears. He was sitting at the table drinking wine with his companions. Chen Hao withdrew his gaze. It seems that humans and elves now live together. By the way, there is also an elf in Bulo's adventure team. The two races, elves and humans, were both created by the same god. It is not surprising that these two races can live together. Sir, do you want a drink? Suddenly, a voice came. Hearing the voice, Chen Hao looked at the speaker. This is a girl wearing a waiter uniform. The girl is holding a tray with wine glasses on it. She is looking at Chen Hao with a smile on her face, and she looks quite friendly. Chen Hao always responded with a friendly attitude to friendly people. He smiled and said, "Do you have any other drinks besides wine?" The girl looked at Chen Hao curiously and shook her head. "No." Chen Hao said with a smile, "Let's have a drink." With that said, Chen Hao took out a card and handed it to the girl. The girl was slightly startled. She took it and looked at it. Looking at the 100 gold coins on the card, her eyes narrowed slightly, and then she looked at Chen Hao. "Sir, you gave too much." Chen Hao said, "I want to ask something, is that okay?" Chen Hao has many questions about this adventurers guild, and these questions naturally require someone who knows the answers. Obviously, it is most appropriate to stay here and serve as a service staff. When the girl heard this, a smile suddenly appeared on her face. She put away the cards, then took out a glass of wine from the plate and placed it in front of Chen Hao. Then she placed the plate on the table, then sat down and looked at Chen Hao. He smiled and said, "Sir, just ask." Upon seeing it, Chen Hao smiled. "I think this is the Adventurers Guild, so what exactly does the Adventurers Guild do?" The girl blinked and looked at Chen Hao strangely. People in this world encounter all kinds of things. Some people can't solve them by themselves, so they need help. They need a platform to come. Let them bring up the problems they need to solve, and they need someone to deal with them. The Adventurers Guild is such a platform. People can come to the Adventurers Guild to submit requests, and the adventurers are the ones who solve these requests. If you want to entrust a task or become an adventurer, you can register directly at the counter. After registration, the task will be posted on the task bar. Adventurers can tear off the task if they like it, which means they have accepted it. In addition, adventurers can also hunt monsters of various levels on their own. The Adventurers Guild will also purchase materials and magic crystals from various monsters, and will also upgrade the adventurer's level according to the materials and magic crystal levels. Hearing this, Chen Hao nodded slightly. This is similar to the setting of the Adventurers Guild he encountered when playing online games. Chen Hao looked around, "But I see this place, why does it look like a tavern?" The girl smiled when she heard it, because adventurers have to wait for the tasks they want to take to appear. They also need a place to rest and have fun before the tasks appear. It just so happens that the Adventurers Guild can provide them with these entertainment and rest places. At the same time, these tables have another use, that is, to summon teammates. Generally, adventurers will not choose to fight alone, so they need companions. If an adventurer has no companions, he can find a table to sit down, and other adventurers without companions can sit down with him. After communicating with each other, see if we can form a team or something. When all 5 seats at the table are full, we can form an adventurer team to start the hunting trip. Speaking of this, the girl paused, she looked at Chen Hao, and smiled and said, "I see that you are very handsome, and you are generous. Sir, are you here to entrust a task? I am immortal and I raise a divine beast in another world." Author, Chen Wunian. Chapter 167. Chen Hao was slightly startled. He smiled, "No, I'm just a traveler, I came here to play." "You said, where is the task bar?" The girl smiled, "Over there." She stretched out her hand and pointed in a direction. Chen Hao looked over there. There was a wall that looked like a blackboard, and on it were yellowed parchments with words on them. Obviously, the words on the parchments were the so-called commission tasks. Chen Hao retracted his gaze, looked at the girl, and said with a smile, "I roughly know the situation, you go and get busy." The girl smiled lightly, picked up the plate and got up to leave. Chen Hao was about to get up, and saw the wine glass left by the girl in front of him. He picked up the wine glass and walked to the taskbar by himself, looking at the various tasks in front of the taskbar. These tasks are divided into A to E levels. E level is to collect herbs and the like, and A level is to hunt mature monsters. Just now I heard from the girl that as long as it is said that the adventurers in the Adventurers Guild are divided into levels. In addition to accepting tasks, you can also upgrade your level by hunting monsters to obtain magic crystals. Chen Hao picked up the wine glass while thinking and took a sip of the wine. A spicy taste entered his throat. It was the taste of wine, but it was very spicy. Chen Hao looked at the wooden wine glass in his hand and raised his eyebrows. It was not the type he liked. Chen Hao put the wine glass on the table. "Maybe I can try to be an adventurer. Hunting monsters can increase the level. I have hunted a lot of monsters. Can I use the corpses and magic crystals of those monsters to directly increase the level?" Thinking of this, Chen Hao smiled, "Anyway, Those corpses are useless, let's have fun. As he said, Chen Hao walked towards the counter. There was a woman in a black uniform standing in front of the counter. The woman looked at Chen Hao coming over. She smiled friendly and looked at Chen Hao. I am the waiter Lena here. Sir, you are a little unfamiliar. Are you here to submit a commission? The waiters and counter ladies in this place are all women. However, it is normal. After all, serving wine and standing are both services. Service requires details, and women have a natural advantage over men in handling details. Chen Hao smiled and said, well, I want to register as an adventurer. Lena heard it and said, what is your profession? Occupation. Can't you become an adventurer without a profession? I guess so. The reason why adventurers are called adventurers is that they have to take risks. If they are just ordinary people, it probably won't work. Chen Hao said, I am a magician. As he said that, he raised his hand and muttered something. A flame came out of his hand. Lena looked at it, she took out a piece of paper and a quill pen, and wrote on the paper. What level is it? What level? Chen Hao crossed his arms and smiled and said, beginner. Lena nodded slightly. After that, Lena asked some more questions. About names and so on. After some cumbersome procedures, Lena took out a card and handed it to Chen Hao. Chen Hao took it and looked at it. Props Adventurer's Token. Level, E. Points, 0. Lena explained, this is your Adventurer's Token. The current level is E. You need to take on tasks or hunt monsters to get points. The higher the level, the more you can prove your strength, and the stronger the teammates you meet will be. The higher the level, the higher the commissions you can accept, and the richer the rewards. Please participate in more tasks. How to hunt monsters to get points? Chen Hao smiled and said, do you only need magic crystals or monster corpses? Lena looked at Chen Hao and smiled and said, both corpses and magic crystals are needed. That's easy. Chen Hao smiled and said, I have collected a lot of corpses and magic crystals in this time. Please help me take a look. Book. Chen Hao's voice fell, and a book appeared in front of him. Chen Hao opened the book. Before, when Chen Hao was free, he would turn some monsters or monster corpses into cards and throw them into the book. Although the hunger of monsters will be consumed when placed in the book, the corpses will not rot when placed in the book. In addition, the card slots in the book are unlimited, and one card slot can hold n cards. It doesn't matter if there are too many monsters and monster corpses. Chen Hao flipped through it, and then took out a card from the book. Monster corpse. The corpse of the ice giant. The ice giant is a half-saint monster. If I give this thing directly to the waiter, will she be scared? It shouldn't matter, didn't that guy Burrow also hunt the giant stone monster? Then it's reasonable for me to hunt an ice giant, right? And the half-saint period should be able to better improve my level. Okay, Chen Hao decided. Then he handed the card to Lena. Lena looked at the card handed over by Chen Hao. She was confused at first, and then took it. She flipped it open and took a look. Lena's pupils shrank suddenly. The look on her face changed in an instant. Ice giant. She couldn't help but speak out. The moment this voice sounded, the Adventurers Guild, which was a little noisy just now, became silent in an instant. Everyone's eyes turned to the side in an instant. Chen Hao felt that he had instantly become the focus of those adventurers. Hey, did you hear what Lena said just now? Lena seemed to say, Ice Giant. I heard it too. Chen Hao could hear quiet discussions coming from over there. Lena adjusted her mood. She looked at Chen Hao with an unbelievable look. Sir, was this hunted by you? Chen Hao smiled. Yes, I still have magic crystals here. With that said, he took out an Ice Giant's semi-holy magic crystal card and handed it to Lena. Big Wolf's group of guys have nothing to do on Wolong Island recently. They are tossing the monsters on Wolong Island every day, and they can always get a piece of magic crystal every night. There are too many magic crystals like the ice giant. However, this magic crystal and this ice giant are probably not a match. But so what? It doesn't matter. Just put it together. Lena took it. Her face no longer had the calmness and smile it had at the beginning, only confusion and shock. It's as if the worldview has been destroyed. How is this possible? This shouldn't be. Lena subconsciously looked at Chen Hao. Sir, are you really a junior magician? Huh? Chen Hao was slightly startled. Oh, yes, I just wanted to find a random identity, fill in the information, and get through. But now it is indeed a bit strange. A junior magician successfully hunted a semi-holy monster, who would believe it? Chen Hao said with a smile, well, I am still a beast master. Beast master is the main profession, and magician is only a secondary profession. Lena looked at Chen Hao blankly, seemingly unable to relax. She adjusted her mood and then said, well, sir. She held the card in both hands and respectfully handed the card back to Chen Hao. Chen Hao didn't answer, but looked at Lena in confusion. Doesn't this prove that I hunted it? Could it be that the magic crystal couldn't match the corpse, so that's why it couldn't work? But how does she know these things don't come together? Lena said apologetically, no, I just identify semi-holy level monsters. I can't do it. At least I need the vice president. My president and vice president are not here right now, so please put it away first. Tomorrow come here again and let the president verify it with his own eyes. Speaking of this, Lena swallowed and looked at Chen Hao cautiously. Sir, I wonder if this is okay. Lena's name for Chen Hao changed, and Chen Hao could visibly feel Lena's nervousness. In fact, Lena's hand holding the card was trembling slightly at the moment. Did it still scare her? Forget it, come here after you understand. Chen Hao stretched out his hand and took it. Suddenly, Chen Hao felt something strange. The Adventure Group Guild was very noisy before, but now there is no sound at all. Chen Hao turned around and looked behind him, only to see the adventurers looking directly at him, their faces full of shock, astonishment, and a hint of disbelief. Obviously, they heard what Lena just said. I am immortal and I raise a divine beast in another world. Author, Chen Wunian. Chapter 168. The entire Adventurers Guild was quiet. Chen Hao withdrew his gaze, thinking that he should run away quickly. Thinking about it, Chen Hao was about to leave. The president is back, a voice sounded from the door. Hearing this voice, Chen Hao looked towards the door. At the door of the Adventurers Guild, stood an old man in white robes. The old man was skinny. He stroked the white beard on his face and looked around. Why is the guild so quiet today? The old man looked confused. Mr. President, you came back just in time. When Lena saw the old man, her eyes lit up and a smile appeared on her face. She said with a smile, this gentleman hunted an ice giant. He took the ice giant with him. The corpse card and magic crystal card came over and said that he wanted to improve his adventurer level. The old man's hand stroking his beard paused, his pupils condensed, and his eyes immediately fell on Chen Hao. You mean, the half-holy ice giant? The old man frowned, looking puzzled. How is that possible? With that said, the president walked towards Chen Hao. The president looked at Chen Hao. There was doubt in his eyes. He put away his doubts and looked at Lena. Ice giant, have you seen it? Lena nodded solemnly. The president looked at Lena's expression and looked at Chen Hao. Is the card on you? Chen Hao glanced at the card in his hand, and then handed the card to the president. The president stretched out his skinny hand and took it. Looking at the corpse of the monster on the card, the president's pupils condensed slightly. At this time, Chen Hao heard movement next to him, and he noticed that other adventurers in the hall were surrounding him. Everyone stretched their necks to see the cards in the president's hand. My goddess of life, is she really an ice giant? Damn it, ice giant, that's a semi-saint monster, and among the many semi-saint monsters, it's considered to be a powerful being. Even a sword master will die if he encounters it in the wild. Is this true? I can actually see the body of an ice giant here. Who is this man? He looks so young, how did he do it? In the entire VAF continent, it is estimated that the only two people who can defeat the ice giant 100% are the sword god and the magic god. In addition, the great sword masters and great magicians can also fight, but no matter the sword the gods and dharma gods, or the great sword saints and great wizards, are already half 100 years old. He is definitely not one of those strong men. I have seen all the sword masters and wizards in the entire Valve continent. Who is he? This is too powerful. Chen Hao could hear the discussions and disbelief of the adventurers. He could see the solemn look on the president's face. He nodded slightly and then handed the card to Chen Hao. Chen Hao took it and looked at the president. The president said, "Yes, it is indeed the body of the ice giant and its magic crystal. This is indeed the corpse of a monster that has not been processed." Speaking of this, the president looked at Chen Hao and said slowly, "The level of the adventurer represents not only the level, but also the strength, status, and identity. Currently, there are more than 60 million adventurers in the Adventurers Guild. Among these more than 60 million adventurers, there are only 5 S-level adventurers and 12 A-level adventurers. To have the status of an S-level adventurer, you must be at least a sword master or a magician-level expert, and an A-level adventurer must be at least a great sword master or an archmage-level expert." Having said this, the president paused and looked at Lena. What kind of adventurer is he now? Lena was slightly startled. She looked at Chen Hao. Mr. Chen Hao is registered as a junior magician. The president was stunned for a moment, and his expression became strange. The adventurers who were watching asked, "Junior magician? Huh? The junior magician hunted the ice giant? Are you kidding me?" However, it is not surprising that he is a junior magician at his age. It's just weird for a junior magician to bring the body of an ice giant to upgrade the adventurer level. Lena looked at the president. Mr. Chen Hao also said that in addition to being a junior magician, he is also a beast master. Beast master? What is a beast master? Many magicians are also beast masters. Beast masters are just sub-professionals at most, an adventurer said from the side. I see that this ice giant was not hunted by him at all. He probably has a background and was hunted by the people behind him and asked him to come here to register. I guess so. These lively adventurers discussed and expressed their speculations. Listening to the discussions of these adventurers, I felt their doubts about their own strength. Chen Hao frowned slightly. I originally thought not to scare them, but now it seems that I am overthinking it. The president looked at Chen Hao and the old man stroked his beard. "Little brother, you are a bit unfamiliar. Who is your master?" There are still some beings on the human side who can defeat the ice giant. But the president can be sure that it will definitely not be the young man in front of him who calls himself a junior magician. Then there is only one possibility, and that is that there is someone behind this young man. The relationship will definitely not be between parents, because as the leader of the Adventurers Guild, he basically knows the strong men who can defeat the ice giant. He knows those people who have children and knows exactly what the children look like. Then, there is only one possibility. The young man in front of him is a disciple of someone in that group of people. Chen Hao crossed his arms and looked at the president. "Why don't you ask, as a beast master, what level am I?" The president was startled, and there was a trace of doubt in his eyes. He slowly said, "Then little brother, as a beast master, what level are you?" "What's there to ask? At most, he is a mature beast master. Does he want to say that he defeated the ice giant by controlling beasts?" "This is too fake, isn't it?" an adventurer said. Chen Hao frowned. I am a semi-saint beast master. The moment Chen Hao said this, the whole audience fell into silence again. Then, haha, the adventurers who were watching laughed one by one. Some people even covered their stomachs with their hands exaggeratedly. This kid, isn't he too funny? Even if he is exposed, there is no need to pretend. Semi-saint beast master? Haha. He is in the semi-saint stage, and I am a god-level beast master. Chen Hao looked at the actions of those adventurers and frowned. Although he was a little unhappy, Chen Hao could understand why they were like this. In this world, not to mention the half-saint beast master, even the awakening beast master is hard to find. Half-saint beast master is just a legend. It was normal for them to find it ridiculous that a man so young suddenly said he was a half-saint beast master. It was normal, but Chen Hao was still very unhappy when he saw them laughing at him. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I am immortal and I raise a divine beast in another world. Author, Chen Wunian. Chapter 169. Chen Hao looked at the president. The president was very well-mannered and didn't smile. The president just looked at Chen Hao, as if thinking and judging. This president is obviously more rational. No wonder he can become the president. Chen Hao looked at the president and said lightly, if you don't believe it, I can call out my beast and let you see it. Chen Hao didn't laugh or feel embarrassed. Instead, he said this in the most indifferent voice. This move made the adventurers who were watching slowly quiet down. They all looked at Chen Hao. Really? This kid, is he really going to release his beast? A beast of the half-saint period. Haha, I'm worried that he will make me laugh to death after he releases it. Haha, it's also a beast of the half-saint period, it's really scary. After a while of silence, these adventurers began to laugh again. Although Chen Hao was very calm, which surprised them, they couldn't help laughing when they thought of the half-saint period beast. Chen Hao looked at this scene, and he was too lazy to say anything. Chen Hao looked at Xiaoying on his shoulder subconsciously. Xiaoying sat on Chen Hao's shoulder, and his black eyes swept across the people on the field. Feeling Chen Hao's sight, it looked at Chen Hao. Do you want Xiaoying to show up? No, Xiaoying's level is too high, and it is not easy for these people to accept the beast of the semi-saint stage. They will probably be scared silly if Xiaoying, a beast of the saint stage, comes out. Chen Hao retracted his gaze, and then found a beast of the semi-saint stage to show up. The book appeared in front of Chen Hao. Chen Hao opened the book and put back the Ice Giant card and Magic Crystal card in his hand. Now he has a lot of semi-saint monsters. Chen Hao glanced at it, let's take it. As he said, Chen Hao took out a card from the book. Chen Hao looked around, then looked at the president, the space here is too small, can we go outside? When the president heard this, he said, no, show me your beast card. The beast card shows the beast level. As long as it is a semi-saint beast, it will be fine. Hearing this, Chen Hao smiled, no, 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 I will call it out and let you see it. The president was slightly startled. He subconsciously turned his head to look at the adventurers behind him who were full of interest. He retracted his gaze and nodded slightly at Chen Hao. Book. The book disappeared. Chen Hao put the card into his pocket and walked out the door with his hands in his pockets. The president looked at the scene and followed. The other adventurers followed one by one when they saw that there was something exciting to watch. The space in the Adventurers Guild Hall is not small. This space is not enough. What do you think his beast will be? What else can it be, a dragon? Haha. Dragon? Haha. The adventurers couldn't help laughing out loud. The dragon is the strongest beast recognized by humans. Even as a beast, the dragon only exists in legends. Legend has it that there is a dragon deep in the forest of beasts, but among billions of humans, only 2 hands can enter the deep forest of beasts. Most people think that dragons only exist in ancient books and legends, and do not exist in reality. Using dragons as beasts, this kind of conversation has also appeared in daily life. Sometimes a child who is just about to accept a beast encounters a beast that he doesn't like, and the adults will mock the child, "Do you want a dragon as a beast?" Simply put, don't daydream. Now the adventurers are talking, saying that Chen Hao wants to use a dragon as a beast, which is to make fun of Chen Hao. Chen Hao listened to the adventurers following him, and he smiled. There are really dragons, but the level is too high, so he is afraid that they will be scared after calling them out. Chen Hao left the adventurers guild and came to the street. The street is very spacious, but people come and go. I see there are quite a lot of people on this street. It's probably not easy to call out the beasts. Let's come together and temporarily block the street, an adventurer suddenly said. Come on. The group of idle adventurers rushed out and stood in a row, blocking the roads on both sides of the street. The people on both sides couldn't come, so they helped Chen Hao clear a space. The adventurers looked at Chen Hao. One of the middle-aged men crossed his arms and looked at Chen Hao playfully, and said with a smile, "Okay, kid, call out your beasts." When the adventurer did these things, passers-by nearby also came over curiously. More and more people were watching. "What are you doing?" "That kid said he has a half-saint beastman, and he wants to call it out for us to see. There's not much space in the house, so let's go to the street. If you're in a hurry, please spare me." "Ah, a half-saint beastman? No hurry, no hurry, I want to see it too. I want to see it too." Seeing more and more people, Chen Hao was speechless. Although the actions of this group of adventurers did help him clear a space, their actions also attracted more and more onlookers. Feeling the curious eyes from all around, Chen Hao knew that if he didn't give something, he would probably make a fool of himself. "Little brother, you can release the beastman," the president's voice came. Hearing this, Chen Hao nodded slightly. He picked up the card in his hand and threw it forward. "Transform." Accompanied by Chen Hao's voice, it fell. The card disappeared, and a beast appeared in front of everyone. The moment the beast appeared, the smiles on the faces of the adventurers who were waiting to see Chen Hao make a fool of himself disappeared. They stared at the huge monster in front of them. Some people fell to the ground with their buttocks, opened their mouths, and looked at the scene in front of them in astonishment, with shock and disbelief on their faces. "Dragon! It's a giant dragon. No, it's a bone dragon, that's a bone dragon. The legendary bone dragon. This is a black bone dragon as big as a hill, surrounded by dark blue mist. It's morning now, with blue sky and white clouds, and it's bright all around, but when this black bone dragon appears, it's dark all around, and black mist is everywhere." The extremely cold bone dragon raised its huge head, and a little red light was revealed in its empty pupils. That was its eye. Hula! Suddenly, Chen Hao heard a noise. He saw a group of onlookers standing unsteadily, fainting on the ground and falling into a coma. The extreme cold bone dragon looked around, and it slowly lowered its head to look at Chen Hao. It slowly bent down, its huge head approached Chen Hao, and lowered its head slightly. When the extreme cold bone dragon approached this side, Chen Hao felt a movement around him. He looked at the president beside him, and saw that the president's face was pale. He held the magic wand and pointed at the extreme cold bone dragon. He muttered something in his mouth, and a translucent cyan magic shield covered his body. The president looked nervous, his forehead was full of sweat, and his eyes trembled as he looked at the extreme cold bone dragon. It seems that this guy is also scared. Warm Ti. I am immortal and I raise a divine beast in another world. Author, Chen Wunian. Chapter 170. The extremely cold bone dragon lowered its head and looked at Chen Hao respectfully. "Master, what do you want?" When Chen Hao heard this, he smiled and said, "Nothing, it's just that someone wants to see you, so I let them out for some fresh air and let them see you." The extremely cold bone dragon turned his head to look at the people around him. Those people were either unconscious, lying on the ground, or barely standing with pale faces and trembling legs, and their expressions were like seeing ghosts. The extremely cold bone dragon retracted his gaze and looked at Chen Hao. "Master, they seem to be a little afraid of me." "Well." Chen Hao nodded slightly. "Yes, you scared them, forget it, go back first." The extremely cold bone dragon said, "Bone dragons listen to the master." Change. The extremely cold bone dragon's body turned into a card and floated in front of Chen Hao. Chen Hao put away the card and looked at the president. The president was sweating all over. After the bone dragon was put away, he breathed a sigh of relief and opened his mouth to breathe heavily. His face was pale and ugly. Chen Hao stretched his eyebrows and looked at the adventurers. Some of them had fainted, and some who were still standing just now were now slumped on the ground. Those who were still awake had pale faces. It was as if they had just been to hell and just came back from hell. Chen Hao smiled, then deliberately raised his voice and said, "Didn't you all want to watch it just now? Do you still want to watch it now?" "No, no," the adventurers hurriedly said. "Sir, we won't watch it anymore." "We were wrong," one of the adventurers shouted with a bitter face. Chen Hao snorted, smiled, and then looked at the president beside him. The president was looking at him, but his eyes were more odd. Chen Hao smiled and said, "President, I think this is okay, right?" The president forced a smile that was uglier than crying, smiled, raised his skinny hand, but his hand was shaking slightly, and he stroked his beard. Okay, sir, please follow me." As he said, the president took Chen Hao to the Adventurers Guild. Chen Hao followed the president inside. The president took Chen Hao into a room. The president sat at the table and looked at Chen Hao. "Sir, please sit down. This guy's address has changed." Chen Hao pulled a chair and sat down. The president took something out of the drawer, and then there was a bunch of boring and cumbersome procedures. After finishing, the president handed 3 cards to Chen Hao. Chen Hao took it and looked at it. Props Adventurers Token. Level, S. Props Adventurers Badge. Level, S. Clothing Legendary Adventurers Clothing. Gender, Male. Chen Hao retracted his gaze and looked at the president. "What are these 3 for?" The president looked at Chen Hao and said, "These 3 things can prove your noble status. The token can be put away. Wearing the legendary adventurer costume can prove your identity, status, and strength to others. If you don't want to wear the costume, you can also wear the badge, which can also show others your identity, status, and strength recognized by the guild. As an S-level adventurer, there are many privileges on this continent. To use these privileges, you can use the token. You can study it slowly, sir." Hearing this, Chen Hao suddenly became interested. "Okay." He stood up and said with a smile, "The level has been upgraded, so I should go." The president was startled, and he stood up. "I'll see you off." Chen Hao glanced at the old man, and said nothing. He went out the door and left the Adventurers Guild. Chen Hao was floating in front of him, looking at the 3 cards lying in the book. Tokens, badges, clothes. There are privileges, but I don't know what privileges there are. Forget it, I'll just put them in the book as a collection. Chen Hao closed the book and looked around. Chen Hao paused. There was a shop in front of Chen Hao, and there was a name on the shop. Top Beast Tamer Shop. Chen Hao smiled. Interesting. This name reminded Chen Hao of the turn-based games he played in his previous life, in which he had to train various pets. Then some players like to set up stalls that specialize in selling pets, and they like to use such exaggerated names to attract attention. But when I opened the stall, it was garbage. Top Beast Tamer, let me see what top beasts are sold in this store. I hope it won't be like those shameless things I encountered in the game in my previous life, just using the store to attract attention, Chen Hao muttered, and he stepped into the store. As soon as he entered the store, Chen Hao smelled a faint fragrance, and at the same time Chen Hao could feel the bright light. He looked up and saw some kind of mineral balls hanging from the ceiling of the store that could glow by themselves. The light emitted by these things illuminated the entire store. This store is very large and spacious. It is 5 or 6 times larger than the Beastman store I saw in Juichuo City before. There are also many shelves. Sir, when Chen Hao was looking at the store, a silver bell sounded. Chen Hao came back to his senses and looked at the source of the sound. What he saw was a girl in a black uniform. Is this a wolf girl? Chen Hao looked at the girl with a pair of fluffy wolf ears on her head, and he stretched his eyebrows. Orc. When the wolf girl heard this, she had a professional smile on her face. Yes, my name is Anna, an orc from the orc tribe, and also a clerk in this Beastman store. What kind of beast do you need, sir? Anna asked in a friendly and enthusiastic manner. Chen Hao smiled and said, I see your store is called the Top Beast Store, so I want the best beast you have here, preferably a cub, preferably a monster. Monsters need to be fed, and monsters are much more convenient. Anna's eyes lit up slightly, and her smile became sweeter. Okay, sir, please follow me. Chen Hao saw Anna leading the way in front, and he followed Anna. While following Chen Hao, he took the opportunity to look at the store. Chen Hao found that in addition to Anna, there were several beast girls wearing shop assistant uniforms in this store. Chen Hao knew that humans and elves lived together, so did orcs live with humans? Chen Hao wanted to ask this orc girl, but asking directly was a bit impolite. Sir, the top beast cubs you need are in this counter. Anna stopped, she looked at Chen Hao and smiled. Hearing this, Chen Hao looked at the counter in front of him. This counter is made of wood, and there are beast cards on the counter. Under the light of Mingguang, the beast cards are very clear. Anna reached out and took out a beast card from the counter and handed it to Chen Hao, saying with a smile, this little lava beast is the best fire attribute monster cub in our store. It has A-level growth potential. Sir, take a look and see if you like it. Chen Hao's heart moved. He took the card handed by Anna and looked at it. Cub stage little lava beast. Taming degree, 0. The little lava beast in the picture is made of red lava, and its shape is like a saber-toothed tiger.